all of you. Thank you for coming tonight. And I am, as I mentioned, I'm with the New America Foundation. I'm a fellow. I'm one of 10 that was chosen this year from around the country. And we're studying, it's with their media policy initiative. It just started last month. So this is the first meeting, the first formal meeting that I'm having with New America here in town. But they were very interested in studying the Scranton media landscape with respect to news and information, and like what is there and what is not there, and what should be here rather, and what people can do for better civic engagement. So, and this is all based on the Knight Commission's recent report. It was released last year in October, and it's the Knight Commission for the information needs of communities in a democracy. So I will get started. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here, and I can kind of go through some of the stuff. I've also, later on, I've got some pretty good sites to take you to, too. Some good examples. This will give you guys some good ideas. Okay, so welcome to Informing Scranton, Gauging Community News and Information Needs. There's the logos there for the Knight Commission. And the Knight Commission's background is the Knight brothers. They had, newspapers, Knight Ridder back in the day. So they've got quite a, some very deep pockets, and it's a big nonprofit. And the information needs of communities was organized. It's a panel of 17 people organized to take a look, couple years, I guess it was in 2008, to take a look at what America's media landscape looked like. And this is before the recession, and it was bad. It was looking bad before the recession, and also with the digital age. I mean, the internet. What's the internet going to do? How is that going to affect people and communities with how they get their news? And then there's the New America Foundation logo, and they're in DC. Okay, so here's me, and I founded anothernews.us, and that was in last June. That was after I got laid off from the Times Tribune. I started that because I wanted to track where these community news startups were happening around the country. I knew there was a lot of them, and so I started tracking them. I'll take you to the site later. I don't make any money off it. It's just my labor of love, really. But anyway, in other news, got the attention of New America Foundation. I attended a Washington Federal Trade Commission workshop in December, and I met this gentleman who's my contact in DC, Tom Glazier, and he's a PhD candidate at Columbia University in the communications journalism department. And he is the main fellow down there in the DC office. But okay, so they're back up to me. They're New America Foundation, 2010, one of 10 fellows. And there's other parts of our fellowship are civic engagement, people who have expertise in civic engagement, people who are studying media ownership, people who are studying other media policy angles, public access. Okay, and I'm formerly a newspaper reporter. Scranton Times Tribune was my last job until last year. Before that, Norwich Bulletin in Connecticut and Portland Press Herald in Maine. So my background is all print. My degree is from Cal Poly Pomona in Southern California in journalism, and I live in Scranton. And then we got New America Foundation, nonprofit, nonpartisan public policy think tank. It's pretty young as public policy institutes go, so I hear, just a little over 10 years old. Yeah, foreign domestic policy, media policy initiative is new. They've got some grant money. Let's see, yeah. So and we're looking at Scranton as a local information case study. All right, so tonight, introduce you to the commission report, take a look at some of the sort of state of the media, national and locally, very briefly, because it's pretty big. Review, yeah, we'll review the Knight report to get some of those ideas going, and we'll look at some news sites of some things happening around the country, and then discussion if you guys have anything you want to mention or talk about. Okay, so what are communities' information needs exactly? According to the Knight Report and the Knight Commission, it's more than a question about the categories of knowledge that people require. It is best understood as a question about the kind of information ecology, that is, the kind of environment for information and communications that a community ought to become. So it goes beyond, it hits a lot of levels. It's not just, the news here as a person or a single group sees it. It's more malleable than that. Okay. Communities need to, and this is all according to the Knight Report, by the way. This is all taken from the Knight Report, unless I noted otherwise. Oops. The commission finds that communities need to, in order to be a healthy democracy, communities need to coordinate, solve problems, and they need information to do these things. They need information to coordinate, solve problems, establish systems of public accountability, and develop a sense of connectedness. And I think, and a lot of this is missing today. That's my opinion. I mean, I'm not sure if you might agree. If we necessarily have a robust discourse in Scranton, I don't think it's that. Oh, here's a part where okay. And some of the values behind these ideas is to promote or to have openness. You know, these are the goals, the abstract goals: openness for communities, inclusion, participation, empowerment, and common pursuit of truth and public interest. That's sort of those are the ideals that we're shooting for. Okay, so the context of all this is traditional media is in trouble. On the national front, and these are all recent figures. These are actually, and this has been going on for a couple years. These are the most recent headlines. ABC News, layoffs announced. This was last month. 20% of the staff in the news division, about 300 positions. CBS News, same thing, layoffs announced. This is in January, they had layoff announcements. Newspaper ad revenue and total revenue were down newspaper advertising revenue and total revenue were down for the 14th quarter in a row. That's 3.5 years that ad revenue is down at newspapers. Online revenue was mixed, and quarterly profits were up due to aggressive cost cutting. And this is through a blog, a guy who wrote this blog on the state of the industry at Neiman Journalism Lab, and that was an article he came out with a couple days ago. Project for Excellence in Journalism study. They looked at Baltimore, and they looked at all the media in Baltimore for about 3 days, for a week last year. And they came up with a pretty interesting case study. They looked at everything: radio, television, print, blogs, hyperlocal, you name it. I think they had 58 sources, and they looked at all the content in those outlets. And just to skip down one, 8 out of 10 of the stories in the Baltimore news, what they call it, news ecosystem, that's everything. That's the radio, television, web, everything, print. 8 out of 10 stories in Baltimore news ecosystem in that period they looked at were reproduced, so they weren't original reporting. So 8 out of 10 were someone reporting something that already had been out there. So it'd be like the radio reporting on the paper's story, or the paper doing something the radio did, or something like that, or a website doing what the paper already had. 95% of those stories came from traditional media. And traditional media, as I just pointed out, is in trouble. Baltimore Sun, going back one up, Baltimore Sun newspaper, this is an interesting thing. They produced 32% fewer stories than in 1999. This is in 2009. And 71% fewer stories than in 1991. So the original reporting by people in Baltimore about Baltimore is way down, 71% from 1991. So it makes you can kind of think about your sources of information in Scranton, and like, do you have the same quantity of, does the Time Tribune? I haven't done that study yet. I'm working on it. But is the Time Tribune, do they write as much as they've been wrote however many years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? I would guess not, because they've had some layoffs and they've scaled back a bit. Okay, just more media stuff. Newspaper ad revenues fell 31%. This is from the Knight Report. From between 2000 and 2007, 31% revenues fell. 16 hitting metropolitan dailies, the hardest. The newspaper industry lost 100,000 jobs over the last decade. But that's, give or take a few. Now that's news jobs. That's not reporters necessarily. That's newspaper jobs, news jobs. That could be all other, like cameramen or editors or someone else that's not, or printers or something. The Project for Excellence in Journalism estimates Yeah, from 2001 to the end of 2009, the total job loss among newspaper journalists will likely pass 14,000. Now that's the journalists. So that's roughly 25% of the industry's news workforce in 9 years. Papers are closing. Rocky Mountain News, which was the #2, the rival paper in Denver, is gone. Seattle Post-Intelligencer is online only. That was the Seattle Times' rival. And the Tucson Citizen is closed. Let's see. This is a recent study. The internet is now the 3rd most popular news platform behind local and national television and ahead of national print newspapers. So the print product comes in 4th after the internet as a platform to receive news. And surprisingly, actually, I was actually surprised to know that national and local TV were ahead of print for platform. Okay, and locally, here's kind of I'm sure you guys are familiar with these headlines. Last year, Times Shamrock reduced staff. I know that there were 10 in the newsroom that were eliminated, me included. Their pay cuts are still in effect as far as I know, and wage freezes and furloughs, I think, are still in effect. Now, interestingly, I found an article that was that profiled Larry Beaupre, the executive editor of the Times Tribune, and the American Journalism Review profiled him about his work here, having come from Cincinnati. And an interesting statistic in that story was in the year 2000, the Scranton Times Tribune had 93 newsroom employees, 93 in the newsroom. And when I left in March of 2009, April 2009, there were about 60. So you're looking at a net loss of about 30 some odd staff in the newsroom locally. Those are my own calculations. Okay, WVIA's, and they've got some problems with state funding reductions. WYOU, we know that they don't have local news anymore. And Times Leader tried to get into the Scranton market and then at some point left. I don't know exactly when that was, but they're now back to Sunday only for Scranton. All right, let me see here. Okay, just to give a little visual. Here we go. There's a really good website called Paper Cuts, and journalists really like looking at it because it's very impactful. Here we go. This person who's not getting paid for this, she's at St. Louis. She's taken it upon herself to track all these layoffs, and she gets it through the web or through people fax her this stuff, they email her stuff, whatever, and she has started tracking all the layoffs and around all the this is just newspapers only, print only, around the country. And so she has her own figures. And this is for 2009. 2009 is pretty dramatic. And so she pegged every little balloon there is like a layoff around a newspaper layoff or a buyout. And not just reporters, but like everybody in that news business. And I do have, I think I zoomed in on Scranton right here. Oh yeah, well, let's see. Here's the part that gets. So she calculated 14,000 jobs lost in 2009 in newspapers. And let me just try to find here, we'll take a look at our area. Okay. So her bubble, by her estimate, is 25 to 49 people. That's her marking. Yeah, there's Times Tribune. Times Shamrock Communications, April 3rd, 2009 was the announcement, and 30 employees accepted buyout offers. That's for the whole building. And 18 were laid off. And so I won't go in. What's this one? Oh, so the CV. Yeah, she's got unknown on CV. So that's, what's this one up here? Oh, Weekly Almanac. Oh, they closed. I don't know where that is. So that's the idea. So I just thought I'd show you that site. But this is really interesting because it just makes you look, it shows you, I mean, it's a nice visual. The country's So this is kind of what the night commission got together and said we need to do, we need to look at this and reevaluate where we're going here. So I will just show you guys, if you don't mind, a short video, because this actually describes the night commission very well, because it's done by them, and this is what they're doing. And this is just a short, not even, hopefully you can hear it.
Commission on the Information Needs of Communities in a Democracy is the first major national commission of its kind in the digital age.
It is a report that says, here are the possibilities.
At the museum in October 2009,
Can you hear that okay?
the commission released 15 recommendations for sustaining democracy and meeting America's information
A
needs.
little bit more.
We must set very ambitious standards for nationwide broadband availability so that everyone can have the same opportunities to access online content and enrich their lives.
She's like the VP at Google, Marissa Mayer.
17 respected leaders from media, public policy, and community organizations conducted a year-long study assessing the information needs of communities.
Oh, geez, sorry.
Holding a plan of action, government, education, and community groups.
I think there couldn't be a better time for a commission like this because we are truly in uncharted waters. We don't know where technology is taking us. And so we need a stake in the ground that says, this is what we've got to have. Another stake in the ground that says, this is where we actually are. And some kind of roadmap from getting from where we are to where we need to be.
The commission recommended policy changes to encourage innovation, increase support of public media, require government transparency, and increase the role of higher education in community information sharing. The commission's roadmap for the future was presented to government leaders.
A great deal of the insight in the report was when you think about the community and you wrap up all the various stakeholders in it, you get a different perspective than if you simply say, how can I make government agency A more effective or government agency B?
If we succeed in bringing about the immediate changes called for in this report, and that all Americans deserve, that all of us in this world can claim great success. If on the other hand, we fail to seize these opportunities, then it will be our fault.
We hear loud and clear the assessment of the Knight Commission that this is a critical juncture, requiring new thinking and aggressive action. I certainly hope that private sector innovation meets many of the challenges identified in the report, and I look forward to the FCC playing a positive and constructive role in helping achieve the goals of the report.
The FCC took action on the report by appointing Stephen Waldman to lead an agency-wide initiative to, quote, promote a vibrant media landscape. The report's recommendations spread across the web. Chris O'Brien from the Mercury News wrote, quote, a groundbreaking study, and I don't use those words lightly, reminded me that our real geographic communities still matter more. The commission is led by co-chair members Ted Olson, former Solicitor General of the United States, and Marissa Mayer, Vice President of Search Product and User Experience at Google. Find out more and join the conversation on nightcom.org and #nightcom on Twitter.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to go over the recommendations, some of the recommendations. There are 15 of them, broken down into 3 categories. And this is what the Knight Commission, essentially this is the crux of the whole report. And this is what they came up with, and they interviewed people all over across the country. This wasn't just like 17 people holed up in a room. They actually got public feedback and went into the certain cities and said, okay, talked to civic leaders and everything, and said, what do you think needs to be done, or what should be different? Okay, the first thing, maximizing availability of. Hang on, let me get my slideshow going here. Okay. Maximizing availability of credible information. That's the first, again, one of three broad sort of thrusts. People need relevant and credible information to be free and self-governing. Okay, so the recommendation specifically, direct media policy toward innovation, competition, and support for business models that provide marketplace incentives for quality journalism. And this could be on local, state, federal. You know, you think about what can be done locally to accommodate some of these things. Increased support for public service media aimed at meeting community information needs. Increase the role of higher education, community and nonprofit institutions as hubs of journalistic activity. Require government at all levels to operate transparently, facilitate easy and low-cost access to public records, and make civic and social data available in standardized formats to support the productive public use of such data. So, you can think, are these being done now, or how can we do these things? Develop systematic quality measures of community information ecologies and study how they affect social outcomes. Okay, the next second of three, enhancing the information capacity of individuals. This is mainly to do with access. People need tools, skills, and understanding to use information effectively. Digital media literacy as critical elements for education at all levels. Fund and support public libraries. I think I saw an article in the paper like a couple months ago. I think that the Albright Library is on hard times. I think their budget was cut. Fund and support public libraries and other community institutions, the centers of digital and media training, especially for adults. So it might be, rethink what the library's function is. Set ambitious standards for nationwide broadband. That's being worked on now at the federal level. They're really visiting that, and they've got some ambitious goals on the federal level for broadband access. How wired is Scranton? I don't know. That's something I need to find out. Maintain the national commitment to open networks as a core objective of internet policy. Let's see. Support the activities of information providers to reach local audiences and with quality content through all appropriate media, such as phones, radio, public access, cable, and new platforms. Okay, the third thing, promoting public engagement. This is a big one. To pursue their true interests, people need to be engaged with information and with each other. So the 5 recommendations under that one: expand local media initiatives to reflect the full reality of communities they represent. Engage young people in developing the digital information and communication capacities of local communities. And this is being done, I'll show you guys in a little bit. This is actually, Seattle has got something, they're like a model in this. Empower all citizens to participate actively in community self-governance, including local community summits, to address community affairs and pursue common goals. Emphasize community information flow in the design and enhancement of local communities' public spaces, and ensure that every local community has at least one high-quality online hub. I was trying to think of that for Scranton. Do you have some ideas? Okay, so the commission has a pretty interesting test for information, like how healthy is your community? And here I'll just breeze through those questions. And they're in one of these. Okay. All right. And this is this is actually the PDF of the report, which you can access online. I have it on these links if you guys have that handout. All right, here's the things to check, to gauge for a healthy, an informed community. A majority of the government information and services are online, and they're accessible through a central and easy-to-use portal. I won't read the sub-points, but I'll just go over the main ones at this point. You get the idea. You can always look that up and read it later. A local government with the local government with a committed policy on transparency. Quality journalism through local newspapers, local television and radio stations, and online sources. Citizens with effective opportunities to have their voices heard and to affect public policy. Another test, a vibrant public library or other public center for information that provides digital resources and professional assistance. Ready access to information that enhances quality of life, including information provided by trusted intermediary organizations in the community on a variety of subjects, and those listed. Do local schools have computer and high-speed internet access, as well as curricula that support digital and media literacy? And is high-speed internet available to all citizens? These are all elements that go into an informed society, according to the Knight Commission. So these, again, so what I will do is I will take you guys to a couple of sites and see where some of this is in action. Now, Seattle. All right, Seattle. I was there in January. I went to a journalism conference called Journalism That Matters. It's a group that I'm a member of, and they held this conference in Seattle because they're so ahead of the game. Seattle is like a model municipality for online connectivity and civic engagement. And there is a very vibrant culture of like hyperlocal and some startups, like local news startups. People like neighbor blogs. Public access is pretty robust there. So, and they have I talked to the tech guy in Seattle, and their budget is over $1 million for the tech department, for their tech program. And a lot of that money comes from, I think like 900,000 of it comes from the cable franchise fees that they've negotiated. So just to give you an idea, for the whole, they won an award for this. This is a city effort, the city of Seattle effort, and they've got a Puget Sound Off, which is for teens. This is their program they've set up for Seattle teens. Kids can sign up for it, and they won an award for this. So let's see here. And let me find. Okay. And then also in Seattle, I'll take you through the Seattle news ecosystem. The other thing with them is there's a network of hyperlocal news sites that started a couple years ago, and they're now an LLC, and they're called Nextdoor Media LLC. And they've become quite popular, and they are a collection of neighborhood blogs. And those are their sites. They're like their sister sites, and it's run by a guy who I think used to work for MSNBC Local, or he still does. I don't know him personally, but he and his wife got together, and they just like started first with My Ballard, which is a neighborhood in Seattle. That did well. So then they rolled out a couple of like neighborhood other sites in their network. Finneywood. I did talk to the guy who runs Finneywood, Queen Anne View, and so forth. Well, so what they did is, I'll take you to one of here's Finneywood, and here's an example of some of their content. And again, these are neighborhood blogs. Suspect, they actually have like crime stuff on there. Suspect in assault on police officer near Greenwood arrested in California. Oh, there's his picture. Two-car accident. This is blog format. This is a blog platform. Two-car accident. Okay, got photos. They got it's standard blog format. Got some advertising. It looks like. They do. They accept advertising. They're an LLC. They're not like a nonprofit or anything. Oh, a little plug for a nail spa that opens. So it's like real community stuff. There's a lady getting her feet done. Uptight Seattleite calls our hood home. This is the kind of content. So they have real concentrated local stuff here. And again, and what they did recently was the Seattle Times, the paper of record for Seattle, started a partnership with Nextdoor Media. So they have a content sharing partnership now. So Nextdoor Media, they sell advertising and have their own business, but they partner with Seattle Times. So when something sort of big or major happens in their neighborhood, Seattle Times picks it up, and so they have like a mutual kind of. Apparently, it's working out pretty well. It's a fairly new fairly new thing they're doing. And that was facilitated by a nonprofit group. I think actually the Knight Foundation facilitated that. They did that. They're doing that around the country with other hyperlocal partnerships with major newspapers. Okay, and then so that's sort of this part of the Seattle ecosystem. Universities, Temple University. Here's where academia can really get involved, and I would hope that something like this could happen locally. I don't know. I haven't talked to the University of Scranton, but Philadelphia Neighborhoods is a project of Temple University's Multimedia Urban Reporting Lab. So their students go out into the neighborhoods and do reporting. And it's, there's no reason why a school website should only, journalism school website should only report on the campus happenings. I mean, if you have these reporters in training, you can send them out into the, into the city or wherever, and they can do their thing. So this is again the Temple University site for, and I'm in touch with one of the reporters there. One of the girls, she's a senior, and this is her capstone thing she's writing for this website for like her senior year or something project. Another one, University of Southern California Annenberg School of Communications. They have they're in Compton area, south central of Los Angeles, and the LA Times has had a bunch of cutbacks and whatever, a bunch of layoffs, and they cannot get to a lot of stuff. Well, UC Annenberg, which has a major journalism program, it's like one of the top ranked in the country. They have the South LA Reporting Project, and same deal. Their students go out and report on South Central Los Angeles. Take pictures, video, which is all the whole multimedia training for students too these days. So they've got, I'm part of what I want to know is how much it costs colleges to do these endeavors. Like the students are built in, your labor is built in, but I wonder how much does it cost for them to get this going. That's something I'd like to find out, and I plan to find out if I can. Let's see here. So I've got Pennsylvania. Yeah, I didn't find anything around. The only thing around here. This is my site. This is in other news. This is my directory, where I just started compiling these, places around the country. I just started putting them on here, of the hyperlocal and, startups and some nonprofits or whatever, but local news happenings, and it's growing every day. It's hard to keep up. Actually, I've got about 30. I've got to put in there. I've got like 65 sites on there now, and I need to put in like 30 more. I just keep at it. Takes a while. Each of the entries take a while. But for Philly, here's the Pennsylvania one. Technically, Philly, these guys in Philadelphia have started up they're writing about everything that's like tech related to people in Philadelphia. So it's broad, but kind of, broad but a niche. There's the former Philadelphia Inquirer reporter, started Metropolis, his own, news and opinion on the city. One of these girls is in Pittsburgh, and this is regional. RustWire is an interesting regional startup. They're not making any money off this or anything yet. They're still trying to get their legs, but they're focusing on one of the co-editors is in Ohio and one is in Pittsburgh, and their scope is the Rust Belt and Rust Belt revitalization. So they've got I'm in touch with them. I like their site a lot. Let's see here. Okay, there's Philly Neighborhoods. I was going to show, this is small town. This guy got some money in Linglestown, outside Harrisburg area. His stuff is not regularly updated, but he got some money, he got some grant money to get this together. So, and he's like a one-man operation, and he does, city council here and there. He's doing it, but it's not, his updates for my liking, his updates should be more frequent. That's all I could find for this flight, and I found like nothing for northeastern Pennsylvania. Actually, there's two things. A new one I found last week. The only thing coming close to this, besides traditional media, so I'm not including Scranton Times Tribune or WVIA. I don't know if y'all know, but I've seen this one. I just came across this. Oops, let's see here. Here's a new forum. I I signed up, so I want to tout this meeting tonight. I put it up there. There you go. So yeah, me and Bill were talking to each other, and then so there you go. So this is new. This is only about 2 weeks old. NEPA Buzz, and the only other thing I know about is this one. So I don't know. I mean, there's Doherty, and then there's Doherty Deceit, and then there's the Times Tribune. If you guys know of any other ones, please tell me, because anyone in ECTV watching, I would like to know if anyone's doing anything else, blog related, city, newsy stuff. Now, I think people who are familiar with this site know the leanings, which is not necessarily, that's his deal. That's fine. That's no one says. I mean, that's what he wants to do, and that's totally fine. I got to give Joe Pilcheski my hat's off to him in a lot of respects, because he's very civically engaged. I mean, Pilcheski, however you feel about his opinions on city government or his diatribes against certain figures, the guy looks up documents. I mean, he digs up local documents. He publishes them. He's got a very high transparency threshold, which is something that I would like to wish other people were doing. Getting documents and putting them online, and that's a huge part of people making decisions and knowing how to how they should react and act in their community. He also has a vibrant conversation going on here. I mean, these numbers are I'm impressed by these numbers, like these views. Was it 18,500, 11,000? And I think what to his credit too, this is the other thing, is just purely from like a objective sort of media criticism standpoint, he continues discussion that the paper has abandoned. I mean, I think that with these kinds of sites, the papers sometimes, and I know I used to work for papers, you go and do a story and then and you file it and you maybe don't revisit it forever, or for a year, or maybe until you got to revisit it again. But people might still want to know what's going on with this issue. And with these forums, especially these ones that are doing so well, like this, I think that this is a pretty healthy forum considering those numbers. He keeps the conversation going, which is important. And now having said that, I have read some of these posts, and there's a lot of hostility and anger and a lot of cussing and a lot of name calling. But that aside, let me see. And they take from the paper. I don't know how, whatever. I can't go into it. But I don't know how they do this, but they manage to cut and paste the entire articles. And I don't know if I don't know. But either way, it's okay. You can link to paper. I mean, you can link to stories. He does the whole thing. So but there's people that really are talking about stuff, and they're concerned, they're upset, they're giddy, they're whatever, and that's important, and I think a lot of times traditional media isn't always there for that. So Pilcheski's I gotta say, the guy's hustles, and he represents himself in court. I mean, the guy, he really hustles. He's some of these things, some of the stuff he posts, so it'd be nice if there were more people that did this. Okay, oh yeah, extremely disturbing council meeting, okay, whatever. But it's got 500, there were maybe 20 people at the council last night, because I was there, maybe with 20 people in the audience, but you got 500 people looked at this, so. So there you go. Okay, Pilcheski. All right. Let's see. I think I got you. Give you a general idea of the neighborhood sites in Seattle. One of my personal favorites. I really think this guy is fantastic. And this is in Los Angeles. It's actually, I think probably because I used to live in this neighborhood. But he's a former Los Angeles Times reporter who was laid off after 20 years, but in 2008. and he lives in northeast LA, and he said, I'm just going to start reporting on my neighborhood. And so he came up with the eSider, and is doing very well. I heard about this site through friends in LA. I asked them while I was having a conversation about their, where they get their news, because this is one of my. I love doing this. So they said, I read the eSider because, and I thought he would say I read the LA Times, but he's an architect, and he's like, no, I read the eSider LA because without the eSider, I wouldn't have known about the stabbings going on in my neighborhood. And I thought, that's pretty powerful. Because the LA Times is not going to report on stabbings in a certain part of Los Angeles. They're more like big picture, and even then they don't quite get the big picture very well. And I just think this guy has a pretty classy operation. It's all highly, purely, and he covers several neighborhoods. Like he covers like 10 neighborhoods or something. He's got a pretty broad area. Crime Watch. He said it's funny running into reporters he used to work with at the LA Times. They run into the same events sometimes, and he's doing his own thing, and they're with the Times still, or they're not. A lot of his friends are PR people and that work. Former reporters that he talks to that are in the public relations offices of the local city government. So this is, and since he's been 20 years in the news business as a reporter, he writes from a news perspective. I mean, he writes straightforward, like newsy, he knows how to write headlines. He knows how. So this is all, the multimedia, the, text, all of it. So, and this is on Blogger. This is on a basic Blogger platform, which you can through Google. So that's eSider LA. I think that's. Citizen journalism. I'll touch on that real quick. Citizen journalism is a big thing right now, getting bigger. Here's the Rapidian in Michigan, citizen journalism report. And citizen journalists are like anybody can contribute, and usually they're unpaid, almost always unpaid. But if someone wants to write something and contribute, you just put it up there. And this is a nonprofit site. This was actually started with some nonprofit money, grant money, the Rapidian. So these are all popping up all over, and there's a lot of collaboration. There's collaboration with, public media, like local PEG channels and PEG channels. It'd be nice to see some collaboration with public broadcasting and public media. That's something to be explored. When I say, I mean like the public access and public broadcasting. When I say public media, for them to someday maybe think about sharing content or helping each other to create local content. That's the main thing with this is creating local content, because that's the big thing, is finding ways to create local content. And these are some of the examples I'm showing you are all ways that people are creating local content. And I got to show you guys, I'm glad. This, with all the potholes, there's always, people love talking about potholes. When you go to any city council meeting, they're like, oh geez, can you please fix the potholes? Some towns, this is also a startup in New Haven, Connecticut. This guy's doing really well too. This site has taken off like crazy. New Haven Independent, and now he's got a sister site, and also in Connecticut. There is a website called See-Click-Fix. And some of these hyperlocal papers are starting to incorporate See-Click-Fix. So what you do is you can be either as a citizen or as a news outlet, and you can sort of embed this application. And people can write in where they see like a pothole or where someone like got mugged the other night. And so this is actually becoming a bit of a pretty good resource for council people and for city government, because they kind of are told of these things as they happen. Ice on sidewalk. Okay. So one person got in there and typed it up and said, oh, there's ice on the sidewalk, and he decided to let people know there's ice on the sidewalk at 54 Pearl, has not had snow removed since the last snowfall, which is at least 3 days ago. It's very icy. It's good to know if you're around Pearl. Now it looks like that ticket was closed, so maybe someone tended to it, so they have the opened and closed tickets. Let's just see, what's this green thing? Oh, bus parked overnight, okay, that's acknowledged. Okay, so, oh, how do I close this thing? Oh, jeez, I don't know. well, I don't know how to get rid of this. Oh, close the ticket. Okay. So you get the idea. And people, what makes this useful is that people just put it up there themselves when it happens. So rather than like me wait for the next council meeting for it to say, or if I email you guys and I'm like, hey guys, there's a pothole here, you might, I don't know what your, your system is, but you might not get to that email, I don't know, or how responsive that is, or the time lag. But this is like immediate, So, I'm saying you guys will air it, and I'm sure you read your emails out loud. I've seen that, but this is this is another way of collecting that data. Suspicious person ring your doorbell. So, and this ticket's still open, so it's unresolved, I guess. And that's, again, called See, Click, Fix. And newspapers and municipalities are really enjoying it. And in this case, they used it for people who may need help snow shoveling. So that's sort of, when, what's this here? Oh, there's NEPA buds, okay. Okay, that's Pelcheski. I think, this is another, it's Facebook, for social media, Facebook and Twitter. You can't count those out. The people get information on, say, Facebook and Twitter. Now, here's what I found interesting. The Times Tribune has has 1,500 friends, okay? Which I would have thought that would be higher for the, Okay. And if you look at Scranton, just the Scranton fan page, which I am a member of, and I touted this meeting on there too, they've got, oh, hang on, where's the number? They've got 7,400. So potentially, 7,400 people could take a look at this and kind of get in touch with, this is a community type of thing. This is definitely a community organization. It's just, it's on social media. But 7,000 fans, and the Times Tribune, the local paper, only has 1,500 on Facebook, which I think that, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, that could be explained in a lot of different ways. Like redundancy. People who get the paper may not bother to be a fan on Facebook, or maybe the demographics are different. There's a lot of factors in that, but that's just an idea. That there's kind of, who else has a Facebook page? Is the Elephant Anchor. The Elephant Anchor has a Facebook page, and I'm a big gold anchor set in between some nice shrubberies and flowers. Many people take great pride in me as I'm something tangible they can point to from a time when the area was actually prosperous. And that would be the Elephant Anchor. Got his own Facebook page. Elephant Anchor. Location, Main Street in West Lackawanna. Yeah, I'm going to give a yell to that. Oh, look at it, Colts bus. Woohoo! Colts bus runs by throughout the day. If you live close, you can walk. So, that's what's going on there. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I don't have one last thing here for municipal. I found this site, and this seems like, this is a town in Massachusetts, smaller than Scranton, like about, I think it's 25,000, or I forget the number, but it's smaller, it's fewer people than Scranton. But I thought their website was really good as far as all like the engagement stuff and the digital. They're really up on the digital outreach, and they have a ton of information on this city site. Now, mind you, they're not in distress status, and I think like the median income is like $100,000 for Hingham, so it's a different deal. But I think some of these things that they have are not expensive to do necessarily. I'll just take you through a quick look at the the town site. Updated news and they've got all these hyperlinks to news and announcements, and these are all fresh. March 3rd, March 2nd, March 1st. Resident quick links, assessment data, and the city site has some of this stuff. Assessment data, documents and forms, election and voter information, I mean, public library. And I know that there's links in Scranton, but still, Scranton's is not as deep as this one. RSS feeds, maybe people could subscribe to the Scranton, website for updates and get any information, like calendar information and municipal stuff. I don't think that there's an RSS feed on the Scranton site. And RSS feeds are easy. Those are so easy to do. Those are like lickety split on a. Let's see. I mean, they've got this. This is just extensive information. That's the biggest flag I've seen in my life. Let's see here. Churches. I mean, they've listed everything. Links, numbers, church, Boy Scouts, troops, numbers, people, youth sports, arts and museums. I mean, beyond the link, they've just got it all like a fraternal, all these community groups are on the website. Boston, unit clubs, neighborhood associations. Oh, Trip Park has one on Facebook. Trip Park has a Facebook page, neighborhood group. But this is like, and I think a lot of neighborhood groups are not on the web, and they should be. Civic services, anything you can imagine, they've got it on here. We've got this, Scranton's got this, I'm pretty sure. Again, all their links to the departments. Yep. Covered. I think, what was the, oh, and there was one they had, I thought I saw a link for all their elected officials, like links to like their senators and state reps and everybody. Yeah. Permits, forms, how many forms are online do you offer? How many forms can be accessed online? City forms, permit stuff, how many, agendas and minutes, are those recent? Those are all things, to be asking. So they just sort of, anything you can possibly imagine or to want to know about Hingham or where to find something in Hingham, it's on this website. Okay, let's see what time is it. All right. Yeah, yep. There's one site, but it's not up yet, and it's a library is collaborating with the Oakland Tribune in Oakland, California, to do citizen journalism. So it's like some people at the library. So libraries, I think, are going to be a large part of the future of news. And I'm actually going into library school this year, so because that's why. Because I would like to know library skills for citizen journalism, for community journalism. So that's pretty much it. I can take you real quick to the media. This is who I'm working for right now. This is just the website to show you. I already told you who I'm with, but this is the website of it. And this is the Media Policy Initiative at New America, and they're really looking into civic engagement, and also the other part of their stuff is broadband. There's a lot of broadband policy coming out of there. So there you go. So I can open the floor to comments or observations. I'll be happy to go online somewhere if you want me to go anywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
I would just like to say, this is a great idea. I'd love to see more of this. Okay. Basically, this is what's opened up our government here in the people's eyes, the alternative media, like ECTV, the blog that you showed before. With the one newspaper town, it's somewhat biased in what I believe. It's hard to get the true story and to see the sunshine and the politics and stuff like that that's really going on. And I think the modern media is what's opened up a lot of eyes and educated a lot of people, and I think we need much more of it. And you're on the right path. I just hope we can all work together and
think of ways
keep
to
it
make it
rolling,
happen.
come up with ideas, definitely.
Yeah, and a lot of this is to kind of start thinking about local media policy and what can the city do, or what should the city be doing to foster and facilitate these types of things, and that's of course not to be answered tonight, but that's something to start thinking about, it's like what, I don't know, tax incentives for small businesses, like small web businesses, I don't know, I'm just thinking, just putting stuff out there. What can the city do, and also to, I think for citizens, a lot of this is incumbent on them to take the initiative, to say, I want to start a website, I want to start the new Finneywood for Scranton, I want to start Trip Park neighborhood or whatever, or, there's 20 neighborhoods in Scranton. Other than the Scranton Facebook page, and of course the Scranton city website, but like, I didn't come across any neighborhood, no web presence in any neighborhoods. Seattle has got a huge web presence. Well, we're mapping that right now. We're mapping it at New America. We have some spreadsheets, and we're basically looking at on Google Earth, like those little dots and locations on that map I showed you, the layoff map. We're looking at that too, and we're going to try to compare it to, to Scranton. And of course, you can't. It's apples and oranges in some respects, but you want to look at Seattle and what are they doing, and how can that model be applied to other places, But yeah, for 20 neighborhoods here, doesn't getting a blog started is nothing, for neighborhood association to, start a blog and say, hey, come to our meetings every month, and there was a robbery, or the C-Click fix, the pothole thing. All those tools are there, Yeah. So, no, hang on, we can still, no, there's more. Yeah, Mike, what do you think? You're the student here.
My only concern would be what stumbling block do you think it is with the lack of communication in Scranton? What is the demographic like in Seattle? Is it mostly young professionals, or is it older people?
Well, that's the thing too. No, it's not mainly older people, and I don't have those demographics in front of me, but I am going to be looking at that too. That is a big part of this of the comparison study, is the demographics, because like the readership penetration here is very high. The Times Tribune, a lot of people get it, but I think that's because my hunch is because we do have an aging population, and it's a habit, and it's a regular thing. So yeah, you bring up a good point. Is like, yeah. There are teens here though still. I mean, there's still a lot of, I think the demographic is here. We have a lot of schools, we have a lot of students, and there's no reason they shouldn't be able to have something like that Puget Sound off, or even, just doing their own reporting and their own local journalism.
Not to be funny or anything.
Uh-huh.
But, the elderly population, majority of them read the newspaper for the obituaries. In essence, that's what they tell me.
Sure.
But, a lot of them aren't as computer savvy as the younger generations. And I mean, it's coming a long way, but I know a lot of the older people that don't even know how to turn a computer on.
Sure.
Which, a little bit of education on that aspect would help too.
That's right, and media literacy, and you're right, maybe some training, at the library. That people are doing that in other cities, training people how to use a computer, and how to access stuff online, so they can access their health reports, or they can access their, local fire department for some reason, Yeah, certainly, that's a big part. That's a big part of this too. The engagement is teaching. Sure, and there are ways that Scranton can be doing that. I don't know if the library already has a program. I think they might have a training program. I'm not sure, but that's something to look at too. The library's role in this, but.
I had a quick question.
Uh-huh.
I saw on one of your slides that online readership of newspapers is actually higher than the readership of the printed press. How far has the printed press declined over the past decade or so as far as their sales? Because I know, you brought up the point that there's been a 25% reduction in the workforce of newspapers nationwide. I was wondering if you knew the answer to that.
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one. It would have to to take quite a bit of, not quite a bit of, but that would take some searching online and some number crunching. There's so many numbers attached to that. Would you know, Dan, anything?
Newspaper circulation is at its lowest level in, I believe it's 70 years.
Well,
It just came out, the Audit Bureau of Circulations in October of '09 came out with house circulation's at a record low.
Interesting.
It's down, it's actually, the strange thing about it is that it's down in every demographic. Even the elderly, fewer elderly are reading newspapers.
Yeah, that's a pretty big number to come up with. But I mean, it can be found, but it is kind of a moving target in some ways. But quantifying the losses is, you know, it's a pretty tall order, but it can be done. But I don't have that number. I couldn't answer that for you. I wish I could. I'd like to know too, that solid number. You know, there's always little bits and pieces here, layoffs there, quarterly, you know, revenue down for, you know, 14 months or 14 quarters in a row, that kind of thing. But quantifying that whole, you know, yeah, I don't have that answer. I wish I did. You guys have anything, Gretchen, Kristen? Any ideas come?
What if, you know, partnering with, you know, city partner, you're trying to get grants from, where would the city go to, you know, for something like that, for, you know, to get grants for, you know, getting more online access or citizen groups?
Well, I think that there's county level grants, and there's also federal and state. So I think you would have to do a search and really, they are out there. They're definitely out there. The list I can't give you a list right now, but they're definitely out there. I know that I know of one thing coming up, but I don't know if a municipal organization or a county organization is eligible. I know of some, but I don't know if it's like government is eligible. But there are a ton out there. It's just a matter of, it's a matter of having a good grant writer that knows where these are and to do that work. But they're out there. I mean, like Colts, you guys get grants, right? Don't you guys?
Yeah, we get a ton of grants. Yeah. But they're all related to transit and yeah.
You know, I bet you could probably get a grant written for communication, for better outreach, like for your websites, or maybe, you know, doing things to enhance the digital communications with Colts. I'd be sure they're out there. Yeah. Kristen, anything come to mind?
One thing that I was curious about was when you were talking about all the different neighborhood blogs, and it seems like they're getting some money from advertising. Are these people actually able to, you know, turn a profit or make a living on this yet?
Nope. No, actually they're not. I've interviewed a few of the owners of these sites, and usually they say, I'm glad my wife works so I can do this. That's like the men have said, my wife has a job so I can do this. Or the women are like, well, my husband works so I have the time to do this. They're not making much money, if anything at all. And a lot of it is sweat equity. I'll go to one side real quick. I did talk to this guy, and he said, they spent about Chatterati in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I talked to him the other day, and they go to all the council meetings. They go to all the, you know, they're mainly political, actually. They mainly like to cover political stuff. They cover the delegation and the local or the state reps and what have you, and city council, but they're doing it for free. But these are tech guys. These actually are guys with, I think there's 3 of them, and they have a tech background. So they knew they could get the website going themselves, because that's their expertise. But they do their own reporting, and they've spent about $2,000 of their own money in about 2.5 years to get it where this is now. And they are looking at revenue models. They're looking at ways so they haven't quit their day jobs. You know, a lot of these are labors of love. They're really like night jobs and weekends and whatever, or if they're, you know, have a spouse who can support them. A lot of that is what it is. But they are working on revenue models. They're looking at subscriberships and maybe even other ways to increase, you know, get their better targeted advertising. So it's on their minds for sure, because they'd like to do this full time. They just can't afford it right now. I'm trying to think of one that's. Oh, I know this one's making money. This is like the one this is the one lady who's she's like the sort of the model figure. Everyone always points to this lady, Tracy Record in Seattle. She's very popular, and she and her husband run this, and she is a maniac as far as like reporting. She reports like 12 stories a day. It's ridiculous. She's a former reporter. Her husband used to sell advertising for radio, and she like posts, like she said she tries to do 12 posts a day, which is a lot. They're making money. They're making like 6 figures. You know, I don't know how much after taxes and how much other overhead, but they make enough to live. It's where they can both have this as their full-time job. And and she was one of the first to partner with Seattle Times, and she's like, her site's taken off like crazy. People just like, they go to this site right away. It's really something else. And she does advertising. I'll show you another one in the Seattle area that is heavy duty advertising. And this guy's trying to make it too. I think he's got a little much. He's got a lot of advertising, but check it out. You see it, you're like, whoa, it's a lot of advertising. I'm gonna turn up. Here we go. This is 10 miles south of Seattle, and he's got a network of blogs now too. And this guy is a laid-off writer. He used to write for a show called, he was a comedy writer, and I met him too in Seattle. He's a comedy writer for some Bill Nye the Science Guy. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that show. He's a former writer for that show, and then I guess he got laid off, so he started his own community websites network in Burien, Washington. So this guy's got a lot of advertising. But they're still, he's still pinching pennies. Look at all this, that's a ton. I mean, look at all that advertising. Where's the news? It's there. Look. There's a sponsored post. Advertiser Prudential Northwest says it's a buyer's market. So he's got people that, right in the news stuff. And they're hiring. That's like unheard of. And they've got some contract. It's all contract work, 1099 type stuff. But they're looking. They got some jobs. Oh, well, I guess I saw the other day. I saw some for their site. They're looking for like reporters and people to help out. So, yeah. So there you go. So people sell advertising. You just have to kind of learn your way around these content. They call them content management systems, or is that platform and the how to put the ads there and stuff, and learn your way around that, and you should be okay to go. So, alrighty. And if you want, my contact information is on the bottom of that page, or if you want to write this down too, you can do that. But it's on that the paper I gave you. So thank you. I do nothing else. Thank you. Thank you very much. Would you like to say anything in the back there?
Does this help the sales of newspapers or detract from it?
Oh, geez, does it help this? That's a hard one. I think it helps. I think it helps newspapers online. I don't think it necessarily will help drive the actual print product, maybe, but I think it will certainly help the online presence for newspapers.
If I was to take over a country, the first thing I'd do is extinguish the newspapers.
Why is that?
Because that's really the basis of our democracy.
You would extinguish the newspapers?
Yes, that's what's taking place right now. Newspaper circulation keeps going down and down and down and down.
Uh-huh.
Now, what's wrong with this source of information? Any adverse government can take control of this and extinguish it immediately. Now, where is the democracy going to be able to be vibrant?
He's saying that democracy is threatened by newspapers going
The lack
out.
of newspapers.
But there's no lack of information.
But that information can be easily seized by the government and extinguished, because all of these frequencies that you're doing on this is controlled by the government.
Well, so then you would hopefully live in a democratic society that wouldn't allow that to happen.
We're not headed that way. That's the problem.
Oh, right. Well, no.
The social society and democracy is gonna be extinguished. And I'm gonna say without vibrant newspapers, it will be extinguished at a more rapid rate.
I don't know, stay tuned, I guess. So,
Very good insight, though.
good, thank you. Okay.
Can people get sued by putting stuff on these?
It depends. It depends.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome, thanks for coming.
Yep.
Thank you for joining the council at meeting. Thank you for doing what you're doing.